All right. Hello, hello. We are officially live from the 317 over right in front of me for those of you who are on the Facebook as well as the YouTube, and then everyone on the IG on my left hand side, but it would actually be your right hand side. So truly appreciate everyone who hops on these, and I truly hope that you're able to get value from this, where I just overall do my own experience share as an entrepreneur, investor in the industry, where today we're going to be going over the 4 ways in which you can find mentors for free. And actually, one of them will be paid, but that will actually be the fifth one. Let me go ahead and jot that down here. So let's go ahead and do a roll call. Comment below, let me know where you are from. And we're just going to start waiting for a few more folks to start hopping in here as well. So normally on Tuesdays, I'm at the 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we have made the shift to Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So looks like we are getting a little bit different of individuals on here. So that is working out. And yeah, comment below, let me know where you're from. I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana. We've got D. Martin from the ATL, which is Atlanta, Georgia. We've got Donta from San Diego. We've got Corey Davis from Indianapolis, fellow Hoosier. All right. We've got Bart from Loveland, Colorado. Jesse Vick from Washington, D.C. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is we are going to be going over the 4 ways in which you can find investors. And those of you who are on the IG, hit that those hearts over there on the right hand side. I get super jazzed up when I see that, super excited. And those of you who are in front of me, it would really mean the world to me for you to like, love, and give those ahas, and really go the extra mile when it comes to sharing this stream so more people can see it, and absolute bombs and golden nuggets are going to be dropped. Myself personally, when it comes to mentorship, it has been an absolute game changer for me. And that's the exact path I was able to start to really, you could say, shortcut in a way, or I would say speed up the learning curve, because I don't want to use the word shortcut. And we've got Erica, just saw you from Canada. All right, awesome. And yeah, we're going to just go ahead and start jumping into some things. And just a little bit that's going on in my world is, and one thing I want to mention is I trust that your families are safe, healthy, and well at this present time, especially during all these crazy moments that we're experiencing. I wouldn't even say crazy, but that you're just healthy and well, because it feels like just over the past several weeks, so many things have been changing rapidly, but I feel it has been slow. What was it? Middle of March is when the lockdowns all started encountering, and just through that, things have just really slowed down, but have been rapidly changing at the same time. So we'd love to hear if anyone else is feeling that too. And if you're wondering who is this bald guy in front of you that is talking, and those of you who also have a bald head as well, go ahead and comment below, Team Bald Head, that born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hey there, Candace. Hopefully you're a Steelers fan. Candace Kale. I'm actually came to the office today and someone had this for me. Huge Steelers fan. Love. Hello, Brandy from Indianapolis, fellow Hoosier. All right, and we got Prince from Lafayette, Indiana. All right, several people from Indiana that are on here. All right, another person, Crossland 55. Okay, Indianapolis Unite. Okay, all right, and then also ask your questions as well. I will be going through those. But today's topic one is, for those of you on Instagram, my handle is Sterling White Official. One more time, that is Sterling White Official. If someone could put Sterling White Official, I will go ahead and pin that. That would be awesome. And yeah, born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, not so good parts of the city where when you tend to drive through the neighborhoods that I lived in, you would one, only drive through it at daytime. And if it was the nighttime and you have to absolutely take that path, you would roll the windows up and then also lock your doors. However, just through that experience, I decided to use that as fuel versus being a product of my environment. Single mother, fraternal twin brother, and grew up in Section 8 housing, in which food stamps and other type of government assistance, I'm sure my mother didn't tell both my brother and I about. And I remember this one instance where my brother and I were actually sitting down at one of these little, and most of you know this story, we were sitting down in our kitchen area, we were eating dinner at one of those little tables that was multicolor. It was like Fisher Price, but I'm sure it was off brand because we couldn't afford it. And so through that, as soon as we get done eating dinner, we actually go upstairs and a bullet comes right through the back where we were sitting. So I may not be here, he may not be here, but decided to use that again, as I mentioned, as fuel. And so just through that is anything above beyond just the standard living, I had to figure out a way to earn money. So that's where the entrepreneurship birth came into existence. Fast forward, starting construction 2009, and then that's when I fell in love with real estate. Shortly after that, found a mentor where I was able to buy my very first deal. This was no money out of pocket. I was 23. This was 2013. I'm now 29. And I overcame so many limiting beliefs through that and was able to take their 20 years of experience as an investor and operator in the industry and compacted it into the 2.5 years that I worked with that individual. So scaled up to 150 single family homes. 2017, bought first multifamily property because made that transition and that scale port. Well, today own just under 400 units. That's the valuation is just under $20 million and have raised over $10.5 million to fund the various projects. So while I'm telling you that, one, give you some context on myself. I'm not perfect by any means. I still make mistakes to this day, a lot more mistakes than I would say successes that I have. And I share those mistakes, especially in articles that I've been a contributor to BiggerPockets, I would say going on 4 or 5 years. I don't even know what year it is half the time. Everything has just been combining over the years. And I have a 7-year-old little angel. In case if you're wondering what I look like if I was a 7-year-old girl with a full head of hair, that's what I would say exactly what she is. She's in denial that when it comes to us looking alike, but everyone we run into says, yes, you do look alike. And yes, this has been renovated, so there is a missing wall switch in the back. So yes, thanks for pointing that out. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep it there in the picture. I was going to shift it, and I actually have a wall switch that's behind me to where that one actually is there. Can you see that? All right, there we go. So that one actually does need cover. So great point on that. Let me go ahead and keep it right in there as well. Yes. So yeah, I truly value everyone for being on here, and just a story when it comes to myself when I was able to get my mentor. The path that I took was it started with just networking. And I want to go into the story on how I was able to find my mentor and all the value that I was able to bring to that relationship. Because at the end of the day, I would really want everyone to take away from this is it's about value, give, give, give. And one phenomenal book that really helped with that whole mindset is Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. And because many people come from a sense of just take, hey, let's sit down for a cup of coffee. I just want to pick your brain, where there's no value exchange. So if you come from a frame of mindset in terms of giving that person value and as much value as you're able to give, then in return, you can get something such as a mentorship or have them invest with you or be able to perform construction on your deal. So yes, hello, Veronica. Thanks for joining. Yes, appreciate everyone as always. So just going back into my story in itself. So I had this very pivotal moment for myself where I was training for a world record for the world's fastest fireman carry mile. No, I'm not a fireman in case you're wondering. And this was just a goal that I ultimately picked as a way to stretch myself. I picked something that scared the absolute crap out of me. And through that is... can you mention the book again, please? It is Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. And I'm not affiliated. So anyone who goes and purchases that book, I don't make any money from it. So just want to mention that. And so, yeah, I was training for this world record at this CrossFit gym. I actually bartered my way into the CrossFit gym because CrossFit is very expensive. And yeah, it's very expensive. So I was cleaning around the gym for my membership. And that's actually the gym my mentor was at. And I was forming this relationship and just relationships with everyone through the gym. And I always overheard this conversation of this individual because at this time I was in construction, but I wanted to make the shift to real estate. to more of the investing side. Always overheard him. He was actually looking to help out with the build out of the operators of that CrossFit gym too, because they were looking to expand. And also, I just overheard those conversations about apartments that he had, multifamily. And just one day, I approached and said, "Hey, how can let's go out? Let's go out to lunch, and I want to see how I can be of assistance to what you're currently doing." And I invited him to a Subway that was nearby, and I didn't even have any idea how I was actually going to pay for it because I was absolutely had no money. The only money I had was actually to pay for gas to get to the gym, and sometimes I actually had to take the bus. So that goes to show you all is I always just figured out a way. And at that same time, I was actually living in my friend's den. So I had no overhead, but I was just figuring it out because I knew some way I was going to make it happen. And so just through that, we sat down and I approached him and said, "What problems are you currently facing in your business? I'm here to help you out. And the kicker is you don't have to pay me anything." And for some reason, his ears perked up. And through that is the very next day, I was in one of his, I was able to go to one of the properties that he was currently managing. And with one of those properties actually converted the unit to run operations out of for his property management company. And I was able to see all the ins and outs. And so that was my first day. And the value I was able to bring to that relationship was one, I was more marketing technology. So he was more of an old school operator. And through that is I was able to take his apartments, take pictures, do video, and post them digitally online. Yes, he did not have that in place, and that's what I brought to the table. And that's one thing I want to mention to everyone on here is just figuring out what your your strengths are, your weaknesses are, and maybe you'll have to get someone else to provide insight. Because myself, I am not Superman, and I'm always fully transparent on that. Just figuring out, hey, what are my strengths are, what are my weaknesses, where are my blind spots that I don't even know are absolutely there, just to become more self-aware. So I knew what the strengths are, the weaknesses is I didn't have the cash to buy the deals. I had some knowledge, but not enough, and also experience. And I partnered with someone who had that. And so through that is in terms of he was more of an old school operator and needs some help in terms of renting his units. So that's the value I was able to bring to that. Hey, thanks, Rihanna, for joining. Always great to see you. Okay. All right. How can we find a mentor now? Because of COVID-19, people are more reluctant to meet up, much less spend time to mentor. This same approach is in essence, Jamil, great question, is you can take a digital. It means there's Zoom, you can do meetings of that nature, but it's just coming from a position of how you can be of value to that person, meaning that trying to think of something that you can figure out what it's just about figuring out what they need help with. Prime example, my mentor was more of an old school operator. So what I brought to the table was bringing more of a online presence to his specific units for rent. So it's just about you can still do that without physically sitting across from that individual. And if you're in the place of giving, then a lot of people will want to reciprocate and say, okay, this person's gives so much value. How can I be of back of assistance to that person? But also it could come down to a numbers game to where this person could just be entirely busy. So it's about building a pipeline of multiple people who could potentially be your mentor, or if you're looking for mentorship from a specific individual, especially if it's on a one-to-one basis. So hopefully that answers your question. It just comes down to you may have to talk to and outreach to multiple individuals to find that person who is in the position to be able to dedicate the time. Because I just happened, the person that I approached is old. He was older, and it was right timing. He was at a position. Hey, I just want to. Yeah, it just happened to be the right timing for his particular case, that I approached him, and that he was like, well, I'm willing to take someone on if you can help with all these things that I need help with. But if it's a particular case where someone doesn't have as much time, they're constantly building, and they're not able to devote resources to assisting someone to guide them along, then you would have to move on to someone else. So hopefully that makes sense. And gosh, what was I going to mention? I'm trying to think where I was going to go with that. Okay, yeah. So in terms of, I brought more of an online presence to his units that he had, and through that is one thing. Additionally, he was looking to transition from multifamily to single family, and that's also where the value exchange was provided as well, where he had the cash but didn't have the time. I had the time but didn't have the cash, and then boom, there's that. So I just want to go into a couple, 4 ways in which you can find mentors. And one thing I want to allude to everyone is, when finding mentors, yes, it's optimal if you can find someone who's directly away from you and you can get that one-on-one time, and then you're actually with them and really learning the ropes. However, what I've learned is, just personally, you can still get mentorship from someone with one. Let's use the first source, is BiggerPockets.com. So you can find someone who is further along where you're at, and just go really deep in terms of the content that they're posting on that platform. And many of you are like, oh gosh, you're pushing me back to BiggerPockets. What's going on? That source is an absolute gold mine. One, I don't get paid to push anyone back towards BiggerPockets or anything. I just know myself personally that there's so much value that you can get from that if you actually tap into it, meaning you reap what you sow. So there's that side of things. And what I mean by that is tapping into forums. There's forums on there. So you can find someone, let's say myself, an example, that on the forums, I go through and I answer people's questions. Also, secondly, I do blogs on there where I do actual case studies of, hey, the very first deal that I did was a 46 unit. This is how it looked from the pre-acquisition. This is how it looked from actually how the money was raised. Meaning that it was 900,000 was the purchase price of that 46 unit deal. It was seller financing, so put down $200,000 and then raise an additional 685 to take care of improvements. And then also I go into the lessons that were learned on that deal as well. So that's what I mean is, those are types of mentorship that you can still get from someone with actually not having to physically be with them. You can just immerse yourself in their content and their lessons that they've been able to get to really get their strategy. So that's the first one, is just using biggerpockets.com. And then from there, you can reach out to that person whose content that you've gone through, the case studies, the forums, and see how you can be of value. Or if you have a particular deal that you're working on, come with a specific question. Because what I get oftentimes is a question is, how do I get started in real estate? That's one of those questions that, for me, there's so many different directions that you can go with that. And that's one of those questions. It's one of those that, one, you just simply start with education. But that's one of those things that, if you're going for the ask for someone and you have a specific question, that allows them to, one, be able to give you more of a concise response, versus if it's more open-ended, it has them take more time to digest it and figure out, okay, maybe they have to ask back you a couple more questions. So that's one thing I really want to mention to people, is when you're leveraging BiggerPockets, is going through someone's advice, the forums that they have, and then also their blogs is one. And then you can reach out to them and, one, ask them a specific question about maybe a deal that you have that maybe they from an article that they posted, they can provide insight on, or maybe one of the case studies that they have given to you of, let's say, that 46 unit deal, you can ask a specific question to me and say, what was the exact structure in terms of the return that you were able to get to your investor partners, or why did you structure it that way as well? So very more specific tactical questions. So that's one. The next one is joining a meetup. Yes, meetups are very beneficial when it comes to this. There's some where it's many more newbies that are there. Hello there, Tano. Thanks for joining. And those of you on Instagram, keep hitting those hearts over there on the right-hand side. Love seeing that. And then those of you who are on Facebook, it would be awesome for you to like, love, and then also give those wows as well. And then also to share this. It would mean the world. The second is to join a meetup, meaning a meetup group and attending. These are free. These are free approach. So the first one, using BiggerPockets.com, there's a free account. You can sign up on that. Second is join a local meetup. Some of these meetups do have individuals that are newbies, quite a bit are newbies, but there's also some movers and shakers that are there as well. So you can approach those individuals and see how you can be of value. That's the exact approach that there's operators, or let's say they bring in a speaker who talks, let's say they're a local speaker and they have had success and they share those successes with everyone. And that's someone who you've looked up to in terms of, or you hear their story and they are where you want to go. Then that's one of those things after everything is, after they're done with their presentation, afterwards you can network with them and build the relationship. You don't have to first come out and take the approach, hey, would you be my mentor? Be so excited, I love all the content, you are where I want to be. It's about forming that relationship. Hey, thanks so much for your presentation that you were able to put together. I know one thing that you mentioned is you're looking for someone to help with underwriting deals. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction. Or if you have that skill, that's something that you can start helping out with. Boom, you've just formed that relationship with that person and was able to bring value with some assistance, something they actually need. Because everyone, I would say, in a way, does need something or could use help. So if you're able to navigate and figure out what that person needs help with, boom, that's the value exchange if that's something that you're able to deliver. So there's that one. The next one is reading books. And this is a another free resource in terms of and finding or being able to get mentors and just going to your local library. So people I consider my mentors are, one, there's Warren Buffett, there's Earl Nightingale, there's Tim Ferriss. Earl Nightingale is no longer alive. There's Tony Robbins. So I have people that are mentors for specific subsets, meaning someone who's a mentor in real estate, someone who's a mentor when it comes to investing, someone when it comes to overall mindset. And what I do is I always pick 1 to 2 people and just go really deep on their specific content, versus if you have 4 to 5 people that you're getting mentorship from on marketing, many of those may start to have conflicting strategies, techniques, techniques, or the way how they go about doing things. Meaning, when it comes to sales, one person may say that it's great to do cold calls in order to go direct to owners. And then the other person would say, when it comes to marketing, cold calling is dead. So that's another thing I would mention to everyone is when you're taking the approach with one, let's say you're getting books and you're taking these knowledge, you pick, let's say, Warren Buffett, or let's say Zig Ziglar, or let's say Grant Cardone, in terms of on the sales side, is to really go deep on 1 to 2 people's piece of content and to ensure that it's not too conflicting. Because we have multiple mentors out there, that's where you can start to run into analysis paralysis and then not know what to do whatsoever. So there's that one. The fourth is just to simply map out so in Indianapolis, Indiana, all of the developers that own apartments within this specific market. So you would essentially map out all those individuals. And then from there is you would start to do the outreach to, you could do the research on their website to find what volunteer organizations that they're involved with. If they're with, let's say, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or they're with some other nonprofits. So you can map out all these individuals and then just reach out to them and say, hey, same approach that I did with my original mentor. You can use a simple Google search to be able to find these people. Or if you're looking to go the route of wholesaling, you can find wholesalers in your market as well. And you can network to find because what tends to happen is there's about 20% that are actually doing 80% of the deals. And if you're able to figure out who those 20% are, if you're looking to learn wholesaling, for instance, then you reach out to that 20%. It's the same thing with brokers. And when it comes to multifamily in Indianapolis, there's only 20% of brokers, actually even less than that, that are doing a huge volume in terms of all the various sales, so there's that. And once you find that 20%, you just start to do the outreach and say, hey, willing to work for you for free. Let me know what it is that I can do for you. So it's internship. That's exactly what it is, a internship. So that's why I keep mentioning it to everyone. Just give, 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 give. Oh, please don't answer. Yes, someone says here, Ronald Morris. Also, please don't ask easily Googleable questions. That is correct. If you get as niche as possible, meaning, trying to think a prime example is single family wholesaling in Indianapolis. Then from there, you can start to find the people's websites. And then from there is you just do the outreach, or in essence, I would just map out all of the specific wholesalers if that's the route you're going and you're looking to find someone to show you the ropes on that. You map out, let's say you've got 25 to 30 individuals, then you can start the outreach from there. However, myself, I would even narrow that list down a little bit more to find who's that 20% that's actually doing a large amount of volumes. So that way you can understand, let's say you reach out to them and they need some assistance with someone to, trying to think, for example, the marketing packages that they put together once they do get a deal put together. That's something that you could say, hey, more than happy to, and this is when you sit down with the individual to, or you just do the outreach. Hey, I see that you're doing wholesaling deals in the specific market. Wanted to reach out and see how it can be of value to you and look to build that relationship in essence. So that's just what it comes down to. And the last but not least, which is one that's not the free route, but I did often myself, is to invest and learn. Meaning I've had people just in the deals, for example, is they will invest in an opportunity that I have. In essence, they would like to learn the ropes, meaning that how the webinar is put together. What does the legal documents look like? What is the PPM look like? So all of those various details. So they'll invest that. They'll invest the cash and then learn, and then they'll ask specific questions. Why did you, in terms of in year 3 to 5, how were you able to calculate and come up with that specific IRR? So there's tons of ways. Just to give a refresher, is yes, thanks Drew for jumping in. We got Rick Realtor, is just to give a refresher on ways in which everyone can find mentors. There's 5 ways. I actually mentioned 4, but I gave that 5th one as a bonus, but the 5th one is more of a paid route, is to use BiggerPockets.com. And on BiggerPockets is just finding several individuals that are where you want to go, and just go really deep in terms of their content, their forum postings that they have, and then also their articles. Myself, prime example, is I post about all my experiences, the learning lessons, the trials and tribulations, the first multifamily deal, the first single family deal, the time in which when I was leasing actually one of the single family houses, and this was where I was very green behind the ears, and I believed actually what prospective residents had said. Of course, there's people that do tell the truth, but they actually gave me the contact information to their landlord, who was actually their relative. And in essence, when I did some further digging, they were actually getting evicted. So that's what I mean from I don't even know where I was going to go. Oh, yeah, you're able to. That's how you're able to get some mentorship, because you're learning from my lessons in that case, and also the strategies in which how I go direct to owner to be able to buy deals. I write about all that stuff on BiggerPockets.com, and there's other contributors on there who also take different paths in ways how they've been able to get to where they are in terms of success. So that's that one. And then also there is, for those of you on Instagram, if you visit BiggerPockets.com, they do have a forum or a specific way to that lists a directory that lists all the meetups in the various cities. So you'll want to visit BiggerPockets.com to be able to find those meetups. And that is the second route in terms of being able to find mentors, is to go to these meetups, find out who the movers and shakers are, and see how you can be of value to them in their business. And the link to that is actually BiggerPockets.com/events. One more time, that is BiggerPockets.com/events. And yes, I do have a shiny head. I greatly appreciate that. Yes. And one thing that I do in terms of just really wanting to be as much efficient as possible with time is actually when I'm in the shower, I will brush my teeth and shave my head at the same time, just as a way to get things done. So that's always just been the route that I take with that. Maybe that was a little bit too much. So the third one is just reading books. So one thing that I've learned is, yes, it's beneficial to have a mentor who you're working with on a day-to-day basis or even a weekly, who's constantly holding you accountable. However, if you're not able to get that, the next route is to read their books. And by books is, when it came to mindset, Earl Nightingale was a mentor of mine. Warren Buffett, when it comes to investing, just his overall principles and his overarching mindset when it comes to investing, which he talks about buying great companies at a fair price that'll ultimately work in the long run versus buying cheap, or let's say decent companies at a cheap price. I was like, that translates to real estate as well. So reading books, and then also just picking one or two individuals, and then also going very deep in terms of the content that they have. Because if you have 5, 6, 7 various mentors that you have, and they have conflicting data that they're providing to you, then you'll run into analysis paralysis. You won't know which way to take, which I know many of you already may possibly be going into analysis paralysis. And we have a question here that says from Avrina. Well, actually, it isn't a question, but it says, BiggerPockets has definitely helped me immensely, especially since I'm a newbie. So grateful for all the info. I wake up excited to work on my goals. All right, now she's got me fired up. Okay, all right, love to see that. And that's what I just mean for you guys. That's just a phenomenal source in itself, and it's at your fingertips. So why not use it? You can just get about anything. Myself, I've gotten investors. I've gotten just overall great relationships from just that platform alone in itself. And if you're when I was looking to expand to the Louisville, Kentucky market to be able to start buying deals, I tapped into BiggerPockets as a way to say, I found out who was locally there that were actually doing deals, and was able to say, hey, these are the specific zip codes and neighborhoods that I'm looking to invest in. And I would say these are working class. So I'm looking for rents between $700 to $900. What's your overall feedback? And is this achievable in terms of being able to get these rents? And would you consider this, where would you consider the war zones in that specific neighborhood? Because I think it's in that specific market, because I consider it this and this. What are your thoughts? So I had some very specific questions. So that's what I mean, just from that a source alone that you're able to get. And then I mentioned work for free. So just mapping out, doing a simple Google search, being very niche. Let's say it's apartment developers. You're looking to do ground up construction. You would do apartment developers in Indianapolis, Indiana. Map out all those individuals and see how you can start. You can do some type of internship. And I know many people who are on here are like, I'm not working for free. Why would I work for free? A lot of times you may not be doing something with your time anyway. Let's say you're watching, what is it, Tiger King is something that people are watching. So that's not the best use of time, especially now. If you could take that time that you're binge watching Tiger King to help someone with their marketing, that'll go that much further. So there's that. And then the last approach is invest and learn. Let's say they're an operator, they're in multifamily investing, or let's say they have single families. You invest with them, and then you're able to learn on the go for investing your cash, if that person would allow that. It just comes down to the people that you're able to get. Sorry for repeating the question, but could you please repeat the name and author of the book on giving mentor, which you mentioned earlier? I would say Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. That is Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. How do I find hard money lenders on BiggerPockets in the DC area? There is a specific directory on there, and I'm sure that you can sort that directory, but I would definitely check that out. I have not used a money lender and have not visited their specific directory on that. I do know they have a directory with hard money lenders, but I'm unsure if you can filter it by the DC area. So I would definitely check that out. Yes. Someone says, "Can you please save the live?" Okay, I've been get, getting quite a bit of those. Woo, choked up a little bit. Excuse me. Uh, it says mentors didn't get their knowledge for free. Why should you? Ronald, you are dropping absolute bombs and golden nuggets. That is completely true. It's all about give, give, give. And okay, best way for newbies to find meetups, biggerpockets.com/events, or you can just go to meetup.com and type in real estate. And of course, you would sort it by wherever your specific city is. Chad says, "Let's go, Sterling." He's got the fire. Don't, you're about to get me super fired up right now. I'm already high energy. Okay. Okay, looking at some questions here. Yeah, go ahead and just drop your questions below. What was your favorite book? Great. I love that question. And I would say I have a composite of multiple books that have been game changers, just depending on where I'm at in my specific journey. And then also, those of you comment below on what is your favorite book that has been very pivotal and impactful for you. And I would say one that really, Maverick Mindset by Doug Hall. I really did enjoy that book, and it was actually recommended by Mike Tyson, interesting enough. But through that book, it just, and I don't want to give away, what do you call that, spoilers, but in essence, it's just people who share their stories and how they were able to overcome their trials and tribulations. So people that are in worse scenarios than what most people are, and how they were able to overcome that obstacle and be better on the other side. So that was a very good book. And then also, I like Compound Effect was a really good one. I'm trying to think of ones that most people, Shoe Dog, or yeah, Shoe Dog, or it's not Shoe Fly, yeah, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight was a very good one too. I believe that was the name of that. But if you type in memoir Phil Knight, that was was an autobiography. If you write it about yourself, I could not go to sleep in terms of I was reading that book, and that book was so good that when I was reading it, I actually felt like I was there. And Phil Knight is the founder of Nike. In case you all are wondering, who is Phil Knight? Okay, yes, that is Shoe Dog. Thank you so much, Maverick Mindset. You look like a creative basketball player on NBA 2K. That's hilarious. Did you hire a lawyer to write your lease? The lease was actually from previous operator, property management company. Lease is, I believe, a standard lease you can find through your software as well. But in essence, I would still have an attorney look over your particular lease because each market is different. And and one thing that I always look for, and this is another segue in terms of when looking at a market to invest in, I always look for ones that are investor friendly. So meaning if you're in Chicago and there is an eviction that, let's say, an unfortunate situation where the resident ends up, there's non-payment. Of course, there's no eviction now with non-payment. But if you have a more sophisticated resident tenant, that process can be up to 6 months. Here in Indianapolis, from the time of non-payment to getting them out, it's about 30-day timetable. All right. I like your headphones. How much did you buy them for? $12, I would say. I think these are just standard JVCs, super cheap. But these headphones aren't connected actually to Instagram. They're connected to Facebook and YouTube to my laptop. Other questions that we have here. All right. How do you distinguish between a good and not so good mentor? All right. Love this question. Collective 202. And honestly, Sterling, you've been a big inspiration. Thanks. No, thank you, Ronald. And distinguish between a good and not so good mentor is to look at their results and their track record. Well, if they have been mentoring other individuals, but also let's say you start, and this is what happened with someone I was working with previously, is that how they interact with other people. Meaning that if you're sitting down and when you are looking for a mentor, you're also interviewing that person on the other end as well to see if they're in line with your core values. Meaning, if you sit down with that mentor and you're out for lunch, and the waiter comes over and the person you're looking to mentor you is very rude to that individual, and you see that on multiple occasions, how they just interact with people, that's a good indication they just may not have very was it people skills, and that could trickle into other things with how they exactly do business. So there's that in terms of that particular way to find out if they're not so good, especially as an individual. They could be crushing it absolutely when it comes to on the business side and doing deals, but how are they when they work with actual people? And then also referrals. Ask other people how their experiences with working with that individual. So if they have a good reputation, and that's one thing, is reputation goes a long way. I'm trying to think what the quote is. It takes years. Warren Buffett actually says this. It takes years to be able to build a reputation, a good reputation, and it can take minutes and seconds to ultimately ruin it. So if the person you are looking to have as far as a mentor is when you mention, Joey Galloway, I just made that name up. Actually, that's a football player's name. You mentioned Joey Galloway's my mentor. If people are like, they give you that look, then that's probably a good indication that that person just doesn't have a good reputation. So that's just one of the ways that you're able to do it. Uh, so Veronica says, wow, I multitask in the shower as well. Great minds think alike. Yes, that is true. All right, let's see what other questions that we have here. What cold calling service do you suggest? Personally, is I set up a whole cold calling system myself personally, where one, there is a researcher that researches to find all the properties, which I target apartments between 75 to 200 units. They then push that down to the cold caller who makes all these calls. There is a whole infrastructure I can go into as far as, and you can reach out to me on this, more than happy to elaborate more with the cold caller, where they're placing all these outbound calls to find who is interested in selling. And when someone is interested in selling, they then set the appointment with me. And all this is outsourced. So the researcher as well as the cold caller is all outsourced. And I just oversee the process. Formerly, I did all of that. And I read a book called actually Predictable Revenue. So that was actually another game changer that showed me. And this is another book called E-Myth that talks about working on the business versus working in your business. So when it came to the acquisition side, I was working in the acquisitions along with everything I was doing as an operator of apartment deals with marketing, bringing on investors, that I was doing essentially what brokers do on a full-time basis. So I was able to read the book, Predictable Revenue. And from that, I essentially replicated that system. And that's how I came up with the researcher, hiring that out, the cold caller, hiring that out, and then also them setting the appointment with me. All right, so yes, I will check your question, Jitin. All right. So the question he has here is, and those of you on YouTube and also Facebook, comment with your question below and we'll go ahead and queue that up. How to find a partner investor being a newbie and not having any deals prior to build trust. I am finding my first step really difficult as I am new in Canada and don't have any credit history. I would say for you, Jetson, is to, once this stream actually ends, I would recommend visiting towards the beginning, because I go into all of how I was able to find my mentor, because I was in the exact same situation you were in. Newbie, didn't have any experience. I had experience with construction, but that doesn't translate to the investing. And I had no absolute deals. I was able just to essentially bridge the gap with me being able to, willing to actually hustle. So there's that. Hopefully that provides you some context. Right. So how do you calculate a good deal? In terms of calculating a good deal, that is in the eye of the beholder. Meaning, prime example, there's people now that are overpaying for properties. But for them, let's say someone on the West Coast who is not, or even the East Coast, and markets such as New York of that nature, where they're not able to get cash flow or their returns are just very slim, and they come over to the Midwest where the returns are higher, but people in the Midwest are used to, let's say, double-digit returns, let's say 10 to 12% cash on cash. Well, I don't want to go out to too many different terms, but someone who is squeezed a little bit more on the market, let's say in California, where they're getting negative returns, a good deal in Indianapolis, Indiana is a lot different than someone who's actually in Indianapolis, Indiana. So that question is in the eye of the beholder. Myself, I'm always looking for double digits when it comes to the cash on cash return, and then also the IR between 15 to 20%. So it's about reverse engineering and figuring out what makes sense to you on that. Should we pay for a mentor? What should that type of agreement look like? So both parties have skin in the game. That question is for Veronica. It really just depends. Myself, when I first got started, I paid that mentor with my time, which I say is a lot more valuable than actual money itself. So if you have the cash, yes, by all means. Well, of course, you want to vet that mentor because you're investing your cash in them. But myself, when it came to college, I went, what was it, close to $30,000 in debt, and I got nothing from that. And through the relationship, working for that mentor for completely free for 2.5 years, I got so much value out of that versus I would have paid close to $1 million for that mentorship, and versus the 30,000 or so I was able to get in debt from the student. So hopefully that does help provide some context. It just depends on where you are. Because yes, I paid with my time. If I had the cash, I would have did the cash in exchange, because my time is something I don't get back. And what I mean by time was I was doing work that in terms of I was overseeing their apartments that they had. So I actually was able to live in one of the units of the apartments, and I would wake up and I would clean the carpets, and I would go into the maintenance office, not the maintenance office, but the property management office to see what they needed help with. So that was all for free versus me just being able to pay and say, okay, well, how did you analyze that deal? How did you be able to do that? I had to exchange my time to do all the minutia work, you could say. Okay. Can you mention those 3 books you just mentioned again? The way you described them sounded great. Gosh, I know I mentioned Maverick Mindset. I may have mentioned Compound Effect. Shoe Dog was a great book. That was a memoir by Phil Knight, where he just really goes into his overall mindset when it came to starting the company, the company Nike. His just overall journey, and it was just one of those books that was so well written. When I was reading it, it felt like I was actually there. Where he talked about some of the runs he went on, it was just very descriptive and super cool. What is a solid way to calculate repair costs is to get a bid from the contractor on what the cost would be to renovate the property. All right, so we'll answer one more question here. I appreciate you all so much. And as I mentioned earlier, is I hope and trust that everyone is safe, healthy, and well during these current times that we're in. And at the end of the day, we are going to get through this. It's about us all sticking together. And what I feel during these times really show people who they are, because meaning that during this time, it's one of those elements where you could just say, I'm just going to wait on the sidelines because one, I'm still buying deals or actually just closed on the deal recently in terms of with the partnership. So I brought the deal, they funded it and closed on it, and still looking to acquire. But right now, of course, the financing element is the very uncertain part. But what I'm getting at is, yes, we could use the excuse, meaning that it's not the right time to buy deals. It's the worst time, the worst time in the climate. I don't have the time, or I just feel that either way, that when people say it's not the right time to buy because there's so much uncertainty out there, that once we get out of this, they'll still say they'll come up with something else. So I just believe now is just myself personally is still putting in the work, either on the self-improvement, taking a step back, restructuring the business to further, once we do get out of this, that will be that much better, faster, smarter, even more efficient. So there's always something that you can be able to leverage during this time, pick up a new skill, reverse and set the foundation of your company, put processes in place. There's so many things to do versus saying, oh, well, I'm just not going to do anything right now because it's not the best time. So, and this is one of the things I just was able to uncover from just taking more empowering beliefs, from just starting with the Earl Nightingale, the Zig Ziglars, the Tony Robbins, the Norman Vincent Peales, And I did this at a very, I would say, quote unquote, younger age, but this was, I would say, in my early 20s. I had a lot of pivotal moments that really helped change the trajectory of my life for the better. And it all started with self improvement. Because one thing I want to mention, and this is me taking a different shift with mindset, is yes, you can know all the tools, the techniques, the strategies, but if you don't have the right mindset, then none of those work. So I'm just doing a personal experience share and one that I've learned from others, because I believe, yes, it's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better to learn from others' mistakes. So if you don't have the foundation and the beliefs that you can do certain things, then you knowing the strategy and the techniques is pretty much irrelevant. Someone over here says, scared money makes no money. That is correct. Hey, thanks for joining here, Rich Steel Realty. All right, so another one is wholesaling question mark. Do I need a real estate agent before I get the property under contract? No, you do not. And actually, I would it could depend on your particular market. I don't. Yeah, I would pick in Indianapolis. You don't, but I don't know in other markets personally. So that's definitely something you would want to check into, and that's going on BiggerPockets.com. Just networking with finding another wholesaler in your particular market and ask them, hey, do you have a license? And especially if they've been doing it for 5, 10 years and they don't have a license, then that's a good indication that you don't need one. But of course, you would still want to coordinate and shoot a quick question over to attorney just to check. But there you go. So hopefully that does help. And yes, Think and Grow Rich is a phenomenal book. And when you think of that, the title of that book alone says Think and Grow Rich, not Work and Grow Rich. It's Think and Grow Rich. It took me a while to actually pick that up. I never even put those two and two together. So, all right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time today. Keep being awesome. And then also those who are revisiting this, go ahead. If you're on Facebook, it would mean the world to me for you to reshare or to share the stream. And then also everyone on my left-hand side, which would be your right-hand side because everything's backwards. I'm gonna go ahead and say this quote that's just above me. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you're a little bit hesitant on making that call to that owner who may have just yelled to you last month, make the call at the end of the day and take it from the angle, hey, just want to check in on you and your family. Hope all is well. It's just another angle to follow up with that person. And things may have changed. They may now be interested in selling just due to the climate that we're in. So just wanted to segue into that. So everyone have a great one. Keep being awesome human beings. Thank you. All right.